starters come back, who knows? Maybe the Nahar pickup will be a good one. But I was just super pumped to see him back in black and red.
With that, we do actually have a call coming in. Let's go ahead and take that. Hey, this is Tried and True. You're on the air. Who's calling?
This is Dave Johnson. It was a great night.
Dave, welcome to the show. It's so great to hear from you. Is your voice holding up okay after tonight?
You know, I've got about another 10 minutes left, and I think, you know what, if I can spend my final 10 minutes of my voice on Tried and True, I'm in good shape. So it certainly was tested tonight. It was fun. It was a blast. It was it was a wow moment, and I hope we expressed that on the television, because it was you didn't know necessarily what to expect, even though you've been talking about it for weeks, and then the next thing you know, it's happening in front of your eyes, and they win.
Yeah, and Dave, this is the first time for the four of us we've been at Audi Field in over a year, and so you obviously had the chance to be there for a bunch of games last year with a bunch of cardboard cutouts in the stands. How different was it to have a crowd even in limited capacity?
Well, you know what, I said it on the air at the end. I almost felt like crying. I know it sounds silly, but you hear the drums and the cheers, and it's such a joyful experience that I've always had with DC United, and such a part of what makes it a special experience, and you somehow you feel the connection through that, and so the club did a wonderful job with, and all teams have, through this crazy time of trying to simulate atmospheres and cardboard cutouts, but there's just nothing better. And that 4,000 sounded like Devin McTavish. I said 40,000 tonight. It's like Chris Sight saying the other day when they had a Red Bulls, when they played the Red Bulls in a friendly. Some fans allowed it for that, and he just liked being booed again. You miss that raw emotion, and so it was. That's what made this night. You wrap it up. I mean, my God, great goals. Fans are back, and you get a win. My voice may last for another 20 minutes because I'm never going to stop talking about it.
Dave, we've heard from Coach Losada a couple times. He's very clearly tired of talking about expectations for this team and glad to just see them out there on the field. Were you surprised to see this team rally and put up 2 goals and then hold on for a victory in their first game under a new coach?
Well, I've said before, I'm buying everything he's selling, including he was kind of selling, managing expectations, which probably is a smart thing to do. But as he kept saying things about, the results might not come so quickly, and again, I believe him, and I believe he was honest in saying that. But as I was hearing him saying those things, a part of me is thinking, okay, we're going to try this new style, and oh, by the way, we're missing, a burn bomb, an Areola. I mean, you go right down, and with all due respect to Eric Sorge, all of a sudden he's now your starter. And again, I mean that. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but he was never necessarily designed to be the first choice forward.
Yeah.
As we were talking just 6 months ago or whatever. So I'm thinking, all right, well, we're going to try this new system, but we're not really at full strength, and we may take our lumps. And sure enough, when the early part of the game was a little bit choppy, chaotic, and New York pinches a goal, and there's a part of you, and I don't know what you all were thinking, but I'm thinking, oh, well, we're going to take our lumps trying this thing. And the next thing you know, the momentum did shift, and you leave the night realizing New York City had a real tough time dealing with the fact they had no time and space to work with. and granted they could have easily at some point pinched an equalizer in that one, but you can say that probably in a lot of 2-1 games. So I could not be more impressed with just. Again, it's clear on this team either you're fit or you're dead, and so I credit the guys with their fitness because I'm surprised they didn't get more gas than they did because as you all witnessed being there, they were getting after it.
Yeah.
No, so Dave, I gotta ask you. This is a little bit of a pivot from tonight, but I had the pleasure of watching the segment that you and Moises Linares did on NBC4 last night, and I laughed out loud because you trying the Spanish goal call plus Moises trying the English goal call. It was just such a joy to watch. What is it like to now have this new TV deal in place and to have the Spanish play-by-play? Moises is a character, and it's got to be fun to work with him.
Yeah, well, Moises is a good friend because obviously I did some work at NBC4 and for several years, and we would literally work in the same. Our desk was arm's length apart, and we'd always be the ones talking soccer, while sometimes the other people weren't that interested in talking soccer. So and he's always somebody that for years I've promoted with the club that if we ever do something with Spanish language that he would be a good choice. Now, I'm saying I've mentioned it for years about with him, but I'm not the reason he got the job. The club realized what he was doing and what a quality broadcaster he is. But the difficult thing about that, and as you know, is evidenced by the fact I don't even what time it is, 11:52. Is again, you gave me an invitation to call, so I called. If there's
we
an
love
excuse or opportunity to call and talk about DC, I'll do it. But so I do, as you probably know, TOP in the morning, and I get up at 3 a.m. and this was when we taped that segment. It was at the middle of the day. Now, if you ever want to get me to commit to something crazy, just call me in the middle of the day because that's when I'm really tired. I always say, if you want to sell me a timeshare, call me in the middle of the day because often I'll say yes to anything just to get people off the phone. So now we're doing this segment, and I didn't know that was coming. That we're gonna, I'm trying to keep the energy up, and I really just want to take a nap. And then all of a sudden he hits me with his goal call, and I'm like, I can feel my brain trying to process everything, and it was just a struggle because that is my nap time, and that's why I'm not really evolved past being 5 or 6 years old when you come home from school and take a nap. So that's kind of how my life rolls, but. So it was a fun segment to do, but I was a bit caught off guard when, and he hit me with that, and I haven't seen the piece yet, but when we did do it live and he threw it back to me, there was a moment where I just like, you got me. My brain just fried too fast because I can't process this quickly.
All right, well, flipping to the rest of the season, I know that you sit in on a lot of these press conferences that we are also lucky enough to sit on. And it seemed like Losada was kind of trying to temper expectations, that he thinks that the team needs a little bit more time to settle into his style. And I think we saw that tonight, but it was really great to get the 3 points right off the bat. So what do you think that we can expect going forward in the next few games?
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's a real tough question because it's hard to judge anything. That's a good New York City team, so that's where I think you leave it, or I leave it encouraged because we didn't pull that off against a team that struggled last year that doesn't have quality players, whatever. That's a quality side that knows what it's doing, and we got that result tonight, and we saw the game through, and even to the end, the foot did come off the gas because you keep up that high press and you do what you're doing, but you also at some point you're in a position to manage and finish off the game, and what an emotional moment was to bring Andy Nahar on late. But what gives you excitement is that we're doing this again without a lot of key players, and that means the players that are on the field now. I think they're still going to factor in, later in the season when you get a Steven Birnbaum or an Ariola back.
Yeah.
Because as we know, to get through this marathon of a Major League Soccer season, you do need the depth, and that's not just a cliche. Because somebody actually, I was asked tonight when the season ends, and off the top of my head, I don't know when it ends this year because last year was supposed to end earlier, but it didn't because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's a long season, and so. This could not have been a better start, but I think he's tempering expectations because he knows that doing it on a consistent basis, that's the next trick. But that team was, when he was talking about fitness, I watched Edison Flores back defending and. Canouse, he's probably still running right now. So I could not have been more impressed with just, how they kept it up. And Devin and I talked about it at halftime. I thought, that's not easy to do what they were doing out there, and not get exposed or beaten. And they really, there was the chaotic sequence that led to the New York goal in the first half, but beyond that, it's not like they were, because of the high press, they were getting burned.
Yeah, well, Dave, before we let you go, I mean, we were walking, sprinting, jogging out of the stadium to try to get to the place where we could record this show, so we obviously did not get to hear your telecast tonight, but who was your man of the match tonight? Because we're about to award ours shortly here, but who did you have as man of the match tonight?
Well, as voted on by the fans on Twitter, our Heineken man of the match is, I get a shameless plug-in for one of our sponsors.
Ours too, Dave.
Brandan Hines-Ike. I mean, again, that goal was just spectacular. But beyond the goal, he did very well. So I think he's a worthy candidate. But I just mentioned Russell Canouse, who also scored a goal. Yeah. And what he did, Junior Moreno, I thought there were a lot of good performances out there that led, Julian Gressel. You can, now I'm going to totally end up evading the question, name the whole team, but it did feel like that kind of result, where, at certain moments, the way Briant kept it all together back there in his leadership. But having said all that, as I really have done a terrible job of answering the question, but I think the Brandan Hines-Ike is a good selection because he did a lot of things, and oh, by the way, he scored a special goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure did. And Dave, as always, we so appreciate the call. We thank you so much for being a part of our show. And when you see Devin next week, please remind him that even though he was our first ever guest, you've been on the show like 500 more times than he has. So he should totally call us as well.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll definitely put that out there. But it's the old saying: "Be careful what you wish for." You send me an invitation. Next thing you know, I show up at your door. So be careful what you wish for.
I don't think we'd be mad about that.
Anytime, Dave. Anytime.
You're always welcome, Dave. And I think you still owe us beers from last season, but I could be misremembering that.
Well, no, I'm. It doesn't matter that I'm paying. If somebody mentions beers, I'm there. So you put it on my tab and let's do it. We definitely. And we're getting it seems like again it was great to see people back and drums and that's what life is all about. What we experienced tonight. You just soak it up and savor it. I mean, we had a good night with good goals and good people. That's what it's all about. So this is a feel good moment that's going to carry us for the rest of the week.
Absolutely, you couldn't have said it better. And thank you so much again, Dave, for joining the show. That's DC United great Dave Johnson, who's been around the team for so long and has called so many special moments. thanks for spending a few moments with us tonight, Dave. We always appreciate it.
Well, it's always good to be tried and true.
We'll talk to you very soon, our friend. Thanks so much. All right, that's the voice of DC United, Dave Johnson, and it's
I love it.
such an honor to have him join us on the air.
The fact that he offers to call in too. Like, we asked him maybe the first time, and we did a really great interview with him, but I think he reached out to us tonight and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna call in. Let's talk about the game." Like,
absolutely,
you love the passion just surrounding the team,
and you cannot walk out of a conversation with Dave Johnson not feeling positive and excited.
You can't.
Just ready for things. Like, and, you know, Dave summed it up perfectly. Having fans back in the stands, that is what this is all about. If you don't have people there watching the game, experiencing it, and being there sharing the ups and downs of the team, you don't have a league.
Yeah.
And we finally got back to that tonight, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I'm so pumped and energized tonight. I can't wait.
Go!
I can't wait to listen and watch him next week as DC go up to Reds. But before we move on to that, I know we got to break down this game and talk about our man of the match here. Yeah,
I know. I feel like we've been so tempered this match. Like, we just won. We just won our home opener with a coach who was tempering our expectations, but with a team who was raring to go, and like the atmosphere was amazing. Like, we just freaking did that. I'm so hype about it.
We did, and Dave awarded his man of the match as a man of the people. Dave Johnson went with the Heineken man of the match. The team awarded to Brandan Hines-Ike, but we have to award our man of the match, and I don't normally go first on this, as Sam reminds me quite frequently, but I will go. I'll go first tonight. It's funny. I mean, Dave's thought process was almost identical to mine. I mean, he named all of the players that I had in there. I'll tell you, but
a lot of them did so well.
It was, but to me, it was Russell Canouse, and I don't even know that it was only because he scored a goal, because it wasn't. I mean, he put in a hell of a shift. It was exciting to see him. I think he was set up for success, playing a little bit higher on the attacking end, but he had a number of critical tackles, critical touches on the ball. So for me, Russell Canouse, he had a great shift tonight, and he's got a great future on DC United in this system.
I completely agree, and Joshua kind of called me out that I was like, I said it during one of our more recent pods that I said that Russell might not be our most reliable, center midfielder, defensive center midfielder, but I think he had a phenomenal game today. He's definitely my number 2. I think, so many guys,
number
right?
2.
Like, I mean, Assad, there's so many guys who had really good shouts tonight, but I mean, for me, I'm definitely going to go with Brandan Hines-Ike. I think he was great. I said it to you during the game. Why are you surprised at that? Are you kidding me? It was like the 60th minute, and I was like, he's my man of the match.
I'm saying, wow, because I was going to transition off of John's and build upon it, because you awarded to Brandan Hines-Ike. He was great, but I think Russell Canouse, if he performs that level every single game, or even most games this season, he's MLS best 11. I think he was that good tonight.
Is he your man of the match?
He's also my man of the match. He was excellent in defense. He had so many takeaways, but also has stepped into this new role of not just being a center defensive mid, and God knows he's not a right back anymore. We're all happy about that. But he was a MLS best 11 center mid tonight.
Yeah.
Not just the goal that he scored, which was well taken, but he was everywhere on the field. Like Dave Johnson said, he might still be running now. He was everywhere. I thought it was a fantastic performance.
He did really good.
Hines-Ike and Gressel as well, honorable mentions.
Yeah, well, and longtime listeners of the show know that when Joshua and I agree on something,
shocking.
It must be true.
It's got to be true.
All right, well,
yeah,
I'll cut in.
There can't be a counter.
J-Rag, who's listening to us, also agrees that Russell is his man of the match. But I'm just going to give my Brandan Hines-Ike pitch. I think he did phenomenal today. I think it was a breakout start for him. This is his first game for DC United. I think the goal he scored was a banger. I was super hype about that. But again, longtime listeners will know that I'm super against just awarding man of the match to the person who scores. I think he had a phenomenal game aside from that. I think he had some really great defensive plays. He was in the right position so many times that he was just able to make that clearance. But also on the attacking side, Joshua turned to me and said, is that a midfielder? And then James Lambert said when he was drafted, like that was a comment that they made was his foot skills are so good. He could potentially also play in the midfield. It was a point in the first half. He was attacking towards the supporter section.
He was cutting it up in the box.
Yes, he was like doing all these foot skills and like super calm and composed in the attacking box. And I was like, that's our center back right there. Who's
he was high. He was pressing high.
Yes, it was phenomenal. I think it was such a great opening debut for him at DC United. I see such a great like season for him going forward.
For sure.
Absolutely deserving a man of the match.
Michael Black, I want to hear yours.
I see plenty of encouraging things from Brandan Hines-Ike. For me, it's Russell Canouse. To take the opportunity to put the team ahead.
All right.
And the work rate you saw throughout the rest of the game. He was all over the field. He was involved. You heard from him midweek about how the team is trying to adjust to playing this new system, trying to go from knowing what you're supposed to do to actually knowing it and feeling it as you're playing. There's a big difference between mentally trying to think through, okay, I have to push, I have to hold back, I have to do what I'm supposed to do. For him to take the opportunity.
You take that away from John.
I'm not sure how that fits in here, but
someone should. You said they can't hold us back, so I just confirmed it.
But for him to take the opportunity to finish that goal, to put us up 2-1, which ended up being the difference maker in the game, and to put it together with the rest of the performance, I don't know if I'm going to go MLS Best 11 yet, but
that was a shout, Joshua. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I said if he plays like that for most games this season,
I love it.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
Hey,
but
he is on pace to set the MLS record for goals scored in a season. So I'm here for it. So Russell Canouse, my man match.
No, I like it, and so I wanna give a quick shout. We love having Dave Johnson join the show, and we actually had a couple of folks try to join the show while Dave was talking to us, and unfortunately we only have one phone line going at a time here. We're a little bit of a low budget broadcast here, but if you called in and you'd like to have your voice heard, we'd love to hear your man of the match or your thoughts on the game. We're available as always. Update your contact info. We have a new number for the 2021 season. It's 540-986-4833, or if you'd like to remember it a lot easier than that, like we do, it's 540-9-UNITED. And that's how you can join the show throughout the season. Like I said, we had a couple of folks call while Dave was on. We cannot possibly cut off the voice of DC United. But we saw the calls come in, so we'd love to have you hit us up again. But as we look a little bit forward, I mean, look, Sam, you obviously predicted a win tonight. And congratulations on that. I'm so excited that we got it.
Yeah, buddy.
Two of us predicted a draw. Joshua, you predicted a loss, but
I predicted a 2-1.
You did. You had the count.
Shut up. No.
Sam, unwilling to give him even an inch there.
Nothing.
But the road ahead for DC United, it does get a little bit tougher, if not only for the clubs, but for the fact that they've got to travel, because we don't get to do this again with a game in person for about a month. We're away to New England next weekend. Following that, we're away to the defending MLS Cup champs, Columbus. No, actually, I think I lied. There's a San Jose game in there at some point.
San Jose, yeah. And then
Sam, have you bought tickets for that yet? I know you're so interested.
We're working on it.
Sam wants to watch Wando Mississippi in person.
Oh, no.
Listen, we're working on it.
I'm so glad that's in our podcast now forever.
Hopefully, yes, we'll be bringing some of that away game content to y'all.
Sam, which Wando miss was worse?
What did I say? I correctly predicted the scoreline of this game. Wando does not play for our team.
No,
you can't give me nonsense.
I'm just curious, was it worse in the World Cup or last night?
Know which one's your mic? Trying to mute.
We got Sam hitting buttons on the board. We're in trouble.
Probably muting myself. Yeah, I'm not on the board anymore. I don't know.
Oh man.
To DC United, I think that I think the team has embraced the way that Losada is training them. And I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Fred, who in a presser, somebody asked him if the team is adapting to it. And he said, well, we don't really have a choice. So yes.
That was absolutely Fred.
Joke, yeah. But I think also if you think back to some of the pressers from last season, you could tell the team was frustrated with Benny Ball. And no disrespect to Ben, like we love him, absolute legend of the team, but I think that like the team was ready to embrace a different style, and I think that they were already ready for that. So the fact that Losada brought this style that I think a lot of them were excited for this game, you could see it was just like 1 or 2 steps off or 1 or 2 touches off, but like they knew what they were supposed to be doing, and I see that it's going to take a little bit while longer for it to like really click with the team. But I'm so jazzed at like where we are right now, and I think it's only going to get better from here. And I am so pumped for this season.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected to come into this game and see the final finished product that we were expecting from DC United this season. At no point were they going to roll out today, push in a bunch of goals, and that was going to be the dominant performance we expected. But for the team to go out and get a result, even with not all the Pistons firing together, is very encouraging. And I think it tells us a lot about where this team can go over the course of the season.
I'll go so far to say that when we were doing our season preview, I tried to be, logical with my prediction for DC United in this season, and I got up to 9th place for DC United. I discounted other teams. But the 2 that I was stuck on were Red Bull and NYCFC.
Yeah.
And I think if they can push back past those 2 teams, then they're in a playoff spot. And now we're in a different ball game.
Let's go!
It's super early days.
We made New York City so uncomfortable today. Sorry,
we dominated the game, and it's like I said, it's super early days. Looking across the league real quick, it's week 1. There's a bunch of draws.
I take issue with the call that we dominated.
That was tough.
You had 38% possession.
I don't think Losada wanted possession though. That's
you had a couple more shots. I'd be hard pressed to say that you dominated the game. It was, especially in the second half, it felt like it was a game that you were going to win because you weren't letting
might be strong, but the last time we played NYCFC, it was 4-1.
So, for sure. It is
I also think
night and day compared to
the
last Ben Olsen game.
We made New York City super uncomfortable. I think there were a lot of times where maybe they had the ball, but we pressured them into like passing the ball out of bounds or like making an errant pass, and like it didn't go where they wanted, and even if we didn't immediately win it back, it like led to a sequence where we won it back. Like I think that it was like a switch almost, and we didn't get to see that preseason game, but I think like what we showed in that preseason game was what they were expecting tonight, and then we brought something different, and they didn't really know how to deal with it. So obviously, as teams go on, they watch game footage, they're gonna a little bit know what to expect. But I think that I tweeted this. I think that everyone's underestimating DC United this season. I think that last season the comments were this roster is better than where they are, but this season the narrative seems to be like the coach is the only change. You haven't made enough roster changes to be good. But I think that this roster is good, and I think that now we have a phenomenal coach who's going to be able to raise the skill of everyone. Yes.
Untested.
And we're going to be great. Untested. We're tested against New York City and won.
You're absolutely correct that most analysts had us down towards the bottom, but I'll give Matt Doyle from MLSsoccer.com credit. He said this team is made up of players who are mostly above average to good MLS players, but we haven't seen that in a while. It's up to Losada to like pull
and
that
I think
out.
He'll do it. I think he will. I still think we're making playoffs.
It's a little too soon to tell on that.
Sam, we could be down to 1 man on the field, and you'd be like, "We're gonna win. I mean, we're gonna make playoffs."
We were 15 minutes away last season.
Everybody made the playoffs except
we were 15 minutes away from being 10th last season. And if that man's not Kevin Paredes, then
no, but we're
Sam's
also higher this season. I think it's gonna be good. I think that y'all can continue to be sad about it, but I think we're gonna be
Nobody's sad about it. We're just saying you're a little bit higher than the rest of us on the team. But hey, tonight was, in my opinion, a hell of a start for the 2021 MLS season. I think DC United are on a good track, and they're going to be tested. I mean, I don't think objectively New York City is a team we have to be better than this season, but I don't think they're a team that's going to compete for MLS Cup. And so at home, in front of some fans, that's a game that I would expect DC United to win, and they did that tonight, which was awesome. Now, what we're going to see in the next couple weeks, they got to go away to New England, and this is a good New England team. They've got some good players. They've got Bruce Arena, who's a world-class head coach. Looking ahead to next weekend.
Whoa, if Losada's not a world-class head coach, then I don't know if Bruce Arena is either.
I mean,
Bruce Arena's
Arena's seen a
a
World
US
Cup.
class coach.
A U.S. class coach.
But what as we look ahead to next weekend, I don't and have did New England play tonight? I don't even. I'm so just looking.
They
at
tied
United.
with Chicago 2-2.
Wow.
Red
That
Bulls.
was a very fast scoring game, too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like all the action. in
Red
the
Bulls
first half.
lost, and Chicago and the Revs tied, and then Nashville and Cincy tied. Goal by Lucho.
Wow.
Shut up.
Look at that.
So we're up high on the table right now.
Yeah.
I do think that the next couple games are going to be a test. I don't think that we can. Maybe I'm probably going to predict a win each time. I don't think that we can maybe expect a win
Really?
each time.
Probably? No,
I'm
you're
never
definitely-
going to predict not a win. I'm always going to put the good mojo out there.
Well, and we talked about it in the preseason, the preview. You don't have to be good off the bat.
Absolutely.
We heard from
Yeah.
we heard from
Absolutely.
the players this week. 3 points at the beginning is worth the same as 3 points at the end or in the middle or whenever you get it.
Yeah, but it's
3 points.
massive at the beginning in our eyes as supporters because down the stretch, those are points you could have lost.
There's a lot of validation to trying to play the way you want to play, especially when you're trying to adopt a new system and it's working and getting you where you need to be. But you don't have to be firing all cylinders until you get down the stretch into the playoffs. This is a team that hasn't won a playoff game in a long time.
Yeah.
We very much want to see that trend turn around. Maybe this is the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the road will be a little bit tough, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna be really great.
I think looking ahead to New England next weekend, I think it's going to be fun because it's a game we're not expected to win. New England is a team that most pundits have finishing ahead of DC United this year, but I think, actually, after listening to him talk a few times, I know that Losada is not going to change his tactics going away. And so we're going to play the same way we did tonight. And if we can get ahead on the front foot, we can get a lead in that game. And I mean, hey, 1 point or 3 points, I think that's worth it. And, DC United could be in a dangerous spot here all of a sudden, which is crazy because this is a team that has been left for dead by mostly everyone in the national media this year.
If only the Open Cup were...
Oh my God!
Still-
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Back to what
John.
you were saying, I think that at least we're gonna have like some goals or like some really good chances on goal. Like I think that is definitely going to continue. I think that we're going to continue to be very attacking, and that's just going to like raise this team's mentality. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think we'll see more of that as the season goes on. In the second half, I really didn't look at that as seeing a lot of venomous opportunities where you really thought that DC United should come away with a goal.
I disagree. I think we could have had a couple more.
Ooh, I think with a better striker, we might have.
Yeah,
I think that's also true.
And it's interesting to me because I mean, all the reporting from the local in the know media here has said that it wasn't terribly surprising to see Sorg get the start, even if Kamara wasn't injured and unable to be in the team. But man, I don't think Sorga had quite as bad of a night as Sam did, but it was absolutely not a breakout night
I don't think it was
by
good.
Sorga.
I was
And-
surprised not to see Kamarni subbed in.
I was too, but I think when you look at the strikers on this team, it's like Ola Kamara, who did absolutely nothing last year.
He's
Like I
out.
might have done more broadcasting the show than Kamara did last year on the field. Plus Sorga, Kamarni Smith, you got a couple of new guys coming in. I just where's the pop? And I wonder if this team can continue to get results in the way that they're doing right now. Could there be a big money signing in the summer that really puts this team over the top?
Yes, I think that a forward is definitely something we're going to look at. I think once Losada kind of has this team doing what he wants, he'll have a little bit more familiarity with our scouting styles. Lucy will be really kind of integrated into this team at this point. I think she'll be able to make a splash, and that's probably the position that we're going to want to look at, barring any injuries.
And we haven't talked about the bringing on Lucy
Let's
the
go!
Russian at all, which I think we're all very excited about. Very, very small sample size, but you didn't see any of the young guys getting played tonight. You didn't see any of the draft picks. You didn't see any of the Yao Paredes. those guys
Well,
that
he's injured.
you started leaning on towards the back half of last season. So, with the exception of Paredes with the injury, very small sample size, but you haven't yet seen the team having to revert to playing guys who were 21 and under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no conclusion to take from that yet, but that wasn't what you resorted to tonight.
And it'll be interesting to watch that throughout the thing. I see Hernan as a no-nonsense guy who'll put the best team out there no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if do we want him to care about youth progression? Like, sure, I guess. But I think his job is to win games, and I think that's very much at the forefront of his mind. Yeah. And he did it tonight.
I think he'll get there, and then he'll focus on the youth. I think, first of all, he looked fresh on the sideline today in the all black. I also think that there were...
Sam, what? You got to take a shot for that.
F off. I also think that there were multiple times when you saw players... After we scored both goals, aside from the celebration, when New York City scored the goal, but also when there were just like some injury moments, you saw players running over to Losada and he was giving like individual advice or tactics, and then they were kind of bringing it onto the team, or like he was calling people over. Like, he was very involved in this game.
Sam's ready to build a statue.
I'm wearing all blacks in the next game just to see if I get called out for being fresh.
You won't pull it off the same way.
Oh, wow.
Damn!
Come at me.
No one's coming at you.
To the point.
Yeah, Sam's the one coming at.
Why is Sam think I'm trying to fight her every show?
All right, we can wrap.
Well, listen, with that, Brandan Hines-Ike potentially in MLS's top 1 best dressed coaches, according to Sam Kasner.
And undefeated.
And also undefeated in MLS.
He's got 100% percentage right now.
100% percentage.
100% win rate.
Woof. Before we get ourselves into trouble, I feel like this has been a pretty good episode so far. I mean, yeah, but whatever. Listen, here's what I want to say. We cannot wait to talk to you guys again next weekend. It's an away game. We tried to get there, but unfortunately some of the ticketing, kind of came in late. But we promise we're going to do some away games this year. We can't wait for that. God bless us when we try to broadcast during those games, but we'll figure it out. I know we can. But what I want to say to end the show tonight is just a massive thank you to all of our listeners, but really to everyone, across the board for wearing a mask for the last year, for wearing a mask when you really didn't want to, for getting a vaccine, for doing all the right things, because if not for that, and if not for the first responders, and if not for all the frontline workers, I don't think we would have been able to go to the game tonight. And I tweeted before the show, and I talked to all of you about, like, the result to me wasn't what mattered tonight for maybe the first time as a fan. It was so amazing to be back, and it was emotional, and I'm so excited to have been there, and of course to get 3 points. Yes. And so what I ask of you guys is, as usual, to retweet us, to follow us, to tell a friend about us, but also to keep doing what you're doing. Get vaccinated when you have the chance, wear a mask, because that's what allows us to go to these games. That's what allows us to keep doing these things and to getting back to normal. Yeah. And to supporting the team that we love. And we are super excited. Just like super big shout to the folks at DC United. They've been super supportive of us doing this pod. We're very excited to be back in the stadium eventually. It wasn't possible right now, and it won't be possible for the next several games, but they're very excited and willing to have us back, which we really love and are so appreciative of. It's a new pod. And I know that we usually have the post-game presser. I think we mentioned it earlier, but we're going to wrap that in as we push this broadcast as a podcast. So if you're listening live, thank you so much. Sorry we weren't able to bring that to you right now, but if you just go subscribe to our podcast, just like kind of go to the end and you'll be able to listen to the presser. We just had some technical difficulties kind of throughout the broadcast, so we appreciate everyone for sticking out. But we are definitely working on like different ways to bring you the presser, and like even when we're in the stadium and beyond, that's something that DC United again is like super supportive of, and we're really excited to continue bringing that. If there's one thing we haven't learned in the past year is how to be flexible, but no matter what because that's how we roll here on Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken, and we cannot wait to talk to you next week after the New England game, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.